We deal with all kinds of difficult people at work. Some colleagues are whiners, others are know-it-alls. But instead of ignoring the problem, our next guest supports learning the strategies to cope with annoying personalities. Rick Brinkman is author of the book Dealing with People You Can't Stand. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
It's my pleasure. Wherever there's problem people, I'll be there.
Well, I think they're everywhere, and I wanted to start by asking you whether there was some personal frustration that led to you writing this book, or what was behind it.
Well, actually, my co-author and I were holistic physicians, and we started counseling our patients, and we found that when we helped them with their relationship issues, a lot of times their physical symptoms went away. And then also on a greater scale, we feel like peace as a collective really requires individual responsibility, and that happens when we can make peace with the people we can't stand, and that's what our book is dedicated to.
Rick, in the book you identify a number of different sort of types of people, and one of them is the yes person. I think all of us at different times in our careers has found ourselves saying yes, if nothing else, just to please the people that we work for. If we are a yes person, and we shouldn't be quite as much, how can we get over that?
Well, yes originates out of a desire for approval. So you see somebody, you want to please them, and you say yes. You know, somebody says, can you do it for me on Thursday by 3? And you go, yeah. Now, what you just did not do is task calculations, looking at your schedule, how long that's going to take. And so what you have to realize as a yes person is that you're not going to please people if you don't get it done. And then by overcommitting, it's very unlikely you're going to get everything done. And I would suggest you turn yourself into a temporary maybe person, which means you say to people, you know, I would love to do that for you. Let me check my schedule, look at what's realistic, and I'll get back to you later. And that buys you a little bit of time when you're not face to face and feeling compelled to say yes, to actually do some task calculations.
We were going through the list of behaviors, and we have a colleague who quite often sits where David is sitting, who could potentially, I think, be identified as a think-they-know-it-all personality. How would you suggest I deal with him?
Well, think they know it all, you have to realize, is sourced out of a need for attention. And they have a need to be the center of attention. Ego is definitely on the surface at that moment. And it's a good idea to think of that behavior like a thirst. They have a thirst for attention. And if you can quench that thirst on an ongoing basis, meaning genuinely let them know when they contribute, or great job you did on that show, boy, you sure bring a lot to this team. Make sure you give them the kudos, only kudos they deserve, but make sure they get those kudos, and that can quench their thirst on an ongoing basis.
It's not like giving alcohol to an alcoholic. I would worry a little bit about showering too much praise on someone.
And that's a very good point. It's like, because we see they don't get recognition they even deserve because we say their head is swollen enough already. We don't want it to pop. And so they don't get it that they deserve, so they need it more, so they do it more, so we give it less, need it more, do it more, give it less, need it more, do it more, and we're all going around and around. So you got to break that cycle, as unpleasant as it sounds.
Speaking of ego, there's an old adage, you know, when you sit down at a poker table, that if you can't identify who the pigeon is, that you're the pigeon. I wonder in the workplace, if you look around in the workplace and no one annoys you, should you be looking at yourself and wondering if maybe you're the one who's annoying?
That's a very good point. You know, everybody's somebody's difficult person now and again, because it's not so much personality, it's different behaviors. And we can all engage in different behaviors. You know, we can all whine on occasion or be negative or not share our true feelings. We have a range of behavior, and of course some people are going to do it more often than others. Although you are going to perceive them as doing it more often because we only know people in limited contexts and a limited relationship. So, for example, somebody could be a real bully at work, they're pushy, aggressive. You wouldn't believe what a wimp they can turn into in a different context or in a different relationship.
What about when you work in a team environment and there's a member of the team, and I am speaking hypothetically now, so nobody in the control room thinks that I'm for you. But what if you have a member of the team who is creating a division, right? How should a manager deal with that?
Well, part of it depends on how they're acting, because if people are being a whiner, you're going to handle it a little differently than if people are being a tank, a bully. So the strategy is a little bit different, but it is important for anybody in management and leadership to intervene in those cases. And especially 3 behaviors: sniping, sarcasm, whining, and negativity can spread like the flu through a team of people, and before you know it, everybody's doing it.
And again, speaking hypothetically, if there's someone on your team that maybe could shower more often or brush their teeth more often, how do you bring up
really better be hypothetical. That's all I'm going to say.
How do you bring up a sensitive subject like that without destroying the relationships?
All right, well, here's a really important communication tip. Anytime you're worried about people taking things the wrong way, it's time for a statement of intent. It's a good idea to think of communication like a phone number. You need all the digits and you need them in the right order. If you dial the area code at the end as an afterthought, the call does not get through. So a statement of intent would be, listen, I know you care about looking your best and people thinking good about you. That's projecting positive intent. So I'd like to share with you something that's going to support you in that. And I want you to know I feel a little uncomfortable about it, but I care about you enough to want to do so. That's a statement of intent, and that's how you frame the conversation, and then they can receive it.
Rick Brinkman, thank you very much. Really enjoyed talking to you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.